because we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Howdy, folks. Got myself down in the corner again. I hope you're doing all right today. And if you were awake this morning and got a little look at this morning's show, I hope you took advantage. If so, you're a bit over $1 up on what you were this morning starting out. The spot price at the moment for silver, $71.33. Keep that watching overnight. I'll be amazed if it's not another $1 or more on top of that by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. The silver prices are doing a little dance at the moment. Not quite like gold is doing. Gold is doing a bit of a better dance, shall we say. It's just burst through $5,800. It's $5,806.83 an ounce. Silver, $71.33. Platinum is $24.35. That's gone up like $400 in a few days. The gold-silver ratio is at 81.4 at the moment. I saw it earlier today. It was 80.6 or something. So it is fluttering a little bit, but the general direction is down. And that's what you want when you're talking about the gold-silver ratio. That equates to how many bits of silver, how many ounces of silver you need to get 1 ounce of gold. At the moment, you need 81.4 ounces of silver to get 1 ounce of gold. That's how it sort of works. If you hadn't come across the gold-silver ratio. The previous gold-silver ratios, in fact, going back many years, and I mean many years, the previous gold-silver ratio used to be 16 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. And the world operated on that figure for many, 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 many years. And then I think the stock market was born, amongst other things, and losses were created, and they had to find a place where they could hide those losses. And they created something called the COMEX market, and that's where they hide it. It has been absolutely pounded. COMEX is being pounded, is probably the only way to describe it at the moment. And some reports were released in America late last week indicating global demand for silver coming up. In fact, you might have heard us talk previously about how much silver is involved in a missile. And I think we said there were 5 to 10 ounces of silver in every missile. I was wrong, very wrong. There are 500 ounces of silver in the warheads or in the missiles of every smart weapon in the US infantry. They don't just have 500 ounces to share between them all. They have 500 ounces each inside each weapon. So silver as an industrial metal is very, very important, and it's extremely important to the defense sector because nothing works if you don't have silver in it to help the connections be made. And silver is one of, if not the best way to make those connections. So industrially, silver is going nowhere. The demand is going through the roof. And as we know, China has been increasing their predictions about what they're going to need by way of buying in silver. And China have been buying silver and gold for years in huge quantities, absolutely huge quantities. Now, the silver that they've released in last week's report, that their demand for silver next year will outstrip supply, will outstrip global supply. That's what China wants next year so that they can build their little solar business. They're basically going to turn China solar. It can be guaranteed there'll be no dimming going on over China, because how can you get solar to work if you're going to keep dimming it? But yeah, that's something to keep an ear out for, and watch what China is doing, and basically follow their lead at the moment. Follow their lead big time when it comes to buying gold and silver. If you can do it, buy as much of it as you possibly can. I've had a few people reach out to me over the weekend. I know a lot of people have placed orders with Ainsley over the weekend because the price held from Friday night until first thing this morning, and first thing this morning it shot up again another $1 or more. So it's a great thing if you've got a bit of silver. It's probably not of interest to you if you don't. I would advise you to get a bit of silver and gain an interest, because this could prove, given what is being spoken about in financial circles at the moment, it could prove to be the greatest financial investment you will ever make. At the moment, they are talking gold going to $20,000 an ounce, and that is in the foreseeable future. Now, I'm not exactly sure when it comes to the financial markets what is foreseeable. Is that 20 years, or is it 10 years, or is it a month? But given what the market has been doing and how gold and silver have been reacting in the last 12 months, well, even let's just look at from the start of this year. From the start of this year, silver and gold have outperformed everything hand over fist. 40+% increases in gold and over 60% in, I think it's over 55% now in silver. So are we seeing signs of it stopping? Not yet. So I would advise, please, this is just what I do. Don't take it as advice or financial advice. Get in and have a bit of fun with the market is what I'm saying. The silver and gold market, if you can afford the gold. And I know you look at it now and you say, oh, look, it's $5,806.83 an ounce. That's a lot of money for one little piece of gold. Well, that one little piece of gold could return you a huge amount in the not too distant future. And if gold isn't your thing, get into the silver, because I can tell you, since I started on this little silver journey, where I started first talking about silver, and I don't know how many, got to be a good 2.5, 3 years ago, the price for an ounce of silver back then, when I started talking about it, was $32. I know because I bought about 4 or 5 coins at the time. It's now $71, 33. Now, while the coins are still sitting quite happily in a little box, I have realized that there is a significant increase. Obviously, they've, not quite doubled, but have doubled, actually gone over double what I paid for some of them, and others which I may have paid $38 for, or I think the last time I bought a coin, I think I paid $42 for. Even then, that wasn't that long ago. That was earlier this year, and now look at the price. So pretty chuffed about all of that. And the Byron Bobs are now coming into their own as a form of useful tender. Oh, shit, look at me. I'm throwing them on the floor. I'll have to go down and dig that one up later. So each one of these Byron Bobs, pardon the hole I've left in the top of that one, each one of these Byron Bobs is now worth a bit over $10. So Vince figured it out today. I think you're getting a bit over $101 worth of silver in our Byron Bob's Voice of Freedom pack. And you get it for a pretty good deal. You get the holder and everything else. But as we did say in the show the other day, we've got to put the price up, unfortunately. So it will go up to $130 as of now. It should have gone up on Friday, but I took 5 more orders today, I think it was, or over the weekend. And I'd forgotten that we said 130. So it is 130 from now on. So until the price goes up again. Otherwise, we wind up selling them to you or giving them to you, and it costs us. It's already, if I'm honest, it's already basically at the point where it's costing us with postage and everything else. We're only charging you 1 lot of postage. We've got 2, amongst other bits and pieces. So not complaining, just happy that we can give you the opportunity. And if you would like to pick up one of these in our Voice of Freedom holders, then all you need to do is email me, carl@vofhq.com. I will supply you the bank account details and how you can make your order. It's not done through the website. You've got to email me. So I've had a few people contact me saying, I've been trying to do it through the website and can't do it. Yeah, you can't. And sorry about that. We can't do it through the website because we literally have to update the price Well, I'm only doing it daily at the moment, but the price is fluctuating a bit during the day, particularly if it goes up. So I get the price in the morning, and that's sort of the price that we pay for the day. But if it goes up again during the day, well, that's so be it. We lose, and you win. That's how it works. But I'm happy to have you win. That's not a bad thing at all. So if you want to be part of it, then email me, carl@vofhq.com, and we will get into it. Send them to you. I've got 4 more that are about to go out, and I'm just waiting on Vince has got 11 more holders coming for me. I'm not sure about Silver Fox. I hope he's building a few more, I hope. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. But Vince and his printer are going flat Kanaka right now and not holding up at all. Okay, digital ID, folks. What a fun thing digital ID is going to be for us. It is coming, have absolutely no fear. Sleazeball Albo Sleazy was in the UK after a very unsuccessful trip to try and suck up Donald Trump in the US. He did go to where he was a favoured friend, though, amongst the leftards of Europe. And boy, did they all come out and shine at the Labour Party conference where Albanese, on our publicly funded dollar, can I point out, decided that he would go and, hug trees or shake hands or kiss babies or whatever. Well, they don't hug trees and they don't kiss babies. They kill them and then they drink their blood for the most part. But at any rate, Keir Starmer announced to the UK nation this marvellous piece of news.
A new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. And it will be as simple as that here in Australia as well. They will be trying to figure out, and I have no doubt Albo Sleazy was there to learn how he could grow enough hair on his balls to stand up in front of the Australian public and make that speech. I don't think he'd live to get out of the building he made it in unless it was the Parliament. That he'd only get out of that because he was protected. The warning must go out to Albo Sleazy and to every one of his henchmen. And when I say henchmen, I mean every person in that place. Doesn't matter what flavour of politics they claim they adhere to. They are lying to you. What they do adhere to, lock, stock and barrel, is this bullshit and this control measure. If they introduce digital ID, folks, say goodbye to your life. Say goodbye to your money. Because once digital ID is in, CBDCs will come in. You will not have access to cash. They will monitor everything. Everything you spend. There'll be no more cash jobs. There'll be no more selling something on the side out on the road for a few bucks because nobody will have the few bucks. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of crypto types who say you'll go in and tokenize everything. Tokenize your house. Tokenize everything you own. And then you can go off and sell all that. Well, who are you going to sell it to? The Indians that are moving in? Now, the digital ID story is being conflated a little bit. They are using it. When I say they, the government are using it. They're going to try and scare us all with this immigration thing, right? Which is what's happened in the UK. The UK has been overrun with illegal immigrants, right? The UK government has not thrown open its doors, as far as I'm aware, to various countries around the world and said, come here. We will pay your students to come to our universities and study here. Not only that, we will pay them enough money to pay for their accommodation and all that other sort of stuff. And if they want to stay afterwards, no worries. They've been here for a few years. It's all good. Look, if they can get a building ticket, that'd be even better because, there's a few of you mob coming over to learn how to build Australian-style houses to Australian specs. And, well, we've already seen how well that's gone with the Arabs. Particularly in Melbourne and a few other places. There are a lot of very shonky builders who've come from overseas and are now showing up on our YouTube screens in inspections and all that sort of thing. And they're trying their standover tactics to keep you, the owner of the property, the person who's paying the bills to build the property, off the property so you don't see the shit work that they're doing. The Australian government is going to introduce a lot more shit workers into Australia, folks, because Australians don't want to do the job. All right, we've made it pretty clear. I think Australians are lazy for the most part, particularly our young folks. It used to be an adventure. When I was, well, before I had my license, so I wasn't able to do this, but I remember the time when it came picking season time. If you were a 18-year-old in my part of the world who had a license and didn't have a job and just wanted to go and see a bit of the world and wanted to make a bit of money doing it, you might go up to Mildura and start picking fruit, or you might hit the Pickers Run and travel around Australia for a year, picking fruit and meeting people and learning all about our nation. That doesn't happen anymore. Our backpackers, the Australian ones at least, don't want to go out and pick fruit or pick vegetables or do anything like that. And therefore, those farmers that are growing and producing this food for our nation have to get it out of their paddocks. So at the moment, we look for overseas backpackers who are prepared to do that work for very little money and who are treated pretty badly on a lot of those places. So much so that there are now laws, and particularly in Queensland, I don't know about elsewhere, there are laws to protect them against unscrupulous property owners who offer them accommodation instead of paying them, all sorts of weird little things. Anyway, we're going to get a lot more of that. But digital ID would stop it, wouldn't it? Because under Keir Starmer's little speech there, you won't be able to work in the UK unless you have a digital ID. That means it'll stop illegal immigration. Anybody who comes across illegally will not have a digital ID. They won't be able to get a digital ID, in theory. Of course, we know that they will, because the Starmer government is already bringing illegals across in government vehicles, putting them in government accommodation and helping them hand over fist in as many ways as possible. But they have an illegal problem in the UK, right? They have boats arriving, coming across the English Channel every day. And a lot of people are drowning in the English Channel every day as well. They don't have the journey like those folks who came to Australia during the crud years. 50,000 illegals jumped on boats and made it to Australia. There was probably 3 times that didn't get here, that never made it. The people smugglers took their money, took them out to sea, murdered them and threw them over the side, or got off the boats out to sea that they knew didn't have enough fuel or weren't mechanically sound enough to make it to Australia. And they get off the boat, leaving these people to their own devices and say, that's the way you've got to go, keep going, and leave them to their own devices. How many young boys and girls were murdered on those boats and thrown overboard after their usefulness had ended? Thousands is the answer to that. You might not remember. Many people blacked it out, but this is seared into my memory from the crud days. Lots of single men coming across on those boats, picked up by our Navy, with little boys in tow. They'd claim they were their son, or they were their nephew, or they were their whatever, but there was no relationship. These kids were being trafficked, and they were being trafficked to be raped on the journey and killed before they got to Australia, thrown overboard to drown. Now, I know that because I know somebody who was working within that environment, picking those bodies out of the sea. It really happened. I think it's still happening. But how would a digital ID stop our legal migration? How would it stop it? It won't. It'll just mean that the people in whatever country, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, Ukraine, Gaza, anywhere you like. I've just had a person appear in my green room. That's a bit interesting. What are we going to do about it? So here we've got now people saying, oh, look, digital ID is coming and they're going to bring the Gazans here on the digital ID. And, well, of course they're going to take the digital ID option if Australia offers it to them. Of course they're going to. And the government won't tell us they've instigated digital ID on these immigrants first. You'll only find that out once they're in the country and they have their digital ID. And they will say, well, I've got my digital ID, I can work, I can do whatever. And that will place that person straight off the boat, plane, or roller skate, whatever they turned up on. That will place them above you and I on the ladder, because I'm pretty confident you and I will not be accepting any digital ID. And I think, broadly speaking, in the UK at least, there is a lot of support for not accepting this digital ID. Interestingly, there's been a petition raised, and over 2 million people have signed that already in like 3 or 4 days, and it's only going to get worse. Now, the English Parliament has a law, interestingly based out of Magna Carta, and it means that this announcement, this decision, must be put forward to debate in the House if the petition reaches over 100,000. Starmer didn't have a debate about this in the House. They just made this decision, like Albo Sleazy will, and ramrod it through because they have the numbers. They don't want it talked about. Well, in the UK at least, I'm not sure if it's the same here, but in the UK, if you can raise a petition with 100,000 signatures on it, it has to be raised and it has to be spoken about. There has to be questions able to be asked in the House about this before it can be made law. So I guess we will have to wait and see. Yep, Silver Fox is spot on the money. You will need digital ID for Centerlink. Most people with Centerlink already have a form of digital ID. They had a phrase, "My voice is my identification," or something like that, that you have to say into the phone when you call them or do something ridiculous. I don't subscribe to that theory. There was a time 5 years ago where I did have some dealings with Centerlink, and I haven't dealt with them since then, and I will not be dealing with them ever again. I mean, shit, I'm going to be eligible for a pension shortly. I won't be getting that. I refuse to put my hand out to the same government I would slit the throat of if given half the chance. So it's just not right. So what are we going to do, folks? We've identified that digital ID is a problem. I think we've also identified that the current government, in fact, just about everybody in that parliament, is corrupt. I think the Australian people fully believe that there is no solution through this government, and possibly not any opposition that's currently being put up. In fact, for sure, not through any opposition that's currently being put up. So this is going to be the crunch moment for us, folks. I mean, you all thought COVID was bad. Oh, well, I'm not getting jabbed and I'm prepared to stay at home and I'm prepared to fight whoever wants to, make me do this, that, the other thing. But when they introduce digital ID and they go to tell you that, oh, look, probably the easiest thing that will happen, or the first time you'll be made aware of it, is when you're at the supermarket checkout. And you will be paying for your goods. You'll go to reach for your card or whatever chip they've implanted in you at the time to beep it away, and you'll beep, and the girl will look at you and look at her screen and look at you and look at her screen, and then she'll look back at you and say, "I'm sorry, this says that you're not allowed to buy any of this. Your funds have been restricted. You'll have to go and report to the police or to Centerlink or do a course or do something else that's going to make it easier for you to gain what you want and make it much harder for anybody else to get anything." So this is why silver and gold are going to be so important to you, folks. the mark of the beast, as Sandy has said there, the mark of the beast is real. Digital ID is going to come into our world. What are you going to do about it? Oh, I'm going to resist. I can hear you saying it now. I won't do it. What won't you do? Or more to the point, what will you do to stop being forced into something like digital ID? That's where the question really needs to go. What are you prepared to do not to be forced into digital ID? Turn your head to that for a little while, because we are going to need to have to come up with some ideas. We will not comply. How many of us have that on our Facebook or Insta-twat profiles? How many of you believe it? We've got to work on that, folks. Come up with some ideas. How are we going to push back? Because I don't think pushing back at your local shop is going to be effective, just like it wasn't during the spicy cough hoax. Not going to be effective because there are morons sitting behind the counters in many cases. And we can't help a moron. We can't help someone who's been jab injured, whose brain has been addled, whose clear thinking ability has been scrambled, whose programming has taken full control. And we can't blame them for that. You know, we can't say you're a soft head or you're easily manipulated, because we have all been manipulated. We have all been easily led. Some of us have just woken up and refuse to be led anymore. So that leaves us wandering aimlessly around in our own paddock, which has got a fence around it, or the beginnings of a fence around it, at least. They're starting to dig the holes for the fence posts. And that fence is going to be digital ID. If that comes in, folks, wherever you go for your holidays now, unless you're a good citizen, you won't be going there again. In fact, you'll be lucky to get a holiday again if you aren't a good citizen. We have illegal immigrants here in this country living in 5-star hotels. Do you think you're going to be put into one of those if you don't comply? No. You're going to wind up in a detention centre like the one at the side of the Wagner Airport in Toowoomba, which is where the 40 or 50 or so illegal, violent criminals that are being held in these 5-star hotels in Brisbane and other places at the moment, until they can be sent home, they should be sitting out there in the Wagner concentration camp. That's what it was built for. You've all seen the pictures of that. You've all seen the pictures of it being constructed. You've all seen the pictures of the guy showing you the gas pipe that goes into every one of the rooms, and there are no gas appliances in the buildings. They're out there. Very definitely out there. And the Wagners, in Queensland at least, they did really well. They got paid to build that detention centre. They built it. They built the airport that is right beside it. And what happened? Palaszczuk got in bed with, quite literally got in bed with one of them, the boyfriend. And then when she resigned and left Queensland politics, probably because she saw the noose was coming, she gave it to the Wagners, gave it $390 million worth of infrastructure that the Queensland taxpayers build, or were built and paid for, given to the Wagner family, the cement kings of Queensland. That's a level of disgust in government that I'm sure we are all over. What are we going to do about it? We're going to go and have another march. Well, that's probably one thing to do, but it's not going to stop it. How many marches have there been that have stopped things like this in the past? Absolutely none, as far as I can tell. The closest we came to stopping shit was in Melbourne, with the big march down there, when the CFMEU were trapped inside their own building and too scared to come out because of the anger of their own members out the front. The unions, once a stalwart of the Australian worker, haven't been anything for the Australian worker in years. They might get you the odd, little benefit now and again, the odd pay rise, but they give away everything else, including you will not be able to work on site unless you get a digital ID, and that'll be coming. You will not be allowed on site unless you get a digital ID. So, folks, you need to start thinking about what you are going to do to push back against that and the timing of that pushback. Because, as I say, if you think for 1 second digital ID isn't being run out by the Australian government overseas in those places where they are recruiting new Australians from right now, I think you would be very wrong. Those people are going to come in pre-digitally ID'd. They may not have the digital ID card, but they will come in pre-digital ID. They'll already be preloaded in the system. That will put them above us in the Australian pecking order. We will become non-citizens because we refuse to comply. Now, look, that's all well and good if we could all refuse to comply and piss off to somewhere happily and live together and weren't interrupted by the rest of these brain-dead morons who have been programmed to the nth degree. We could live in our own little groups quite happily, I'm sure. But we won't be allowed to do that because we are the dissent. We are the final stand. All right? There are some of you who I know and fully believe are 100% staunch to this until you get pushed to a point of, but I want to go and do something, or I want to see someone, or I want to go on a holiday, or I just want to do this. I'm sick and tired of not being allowed to go to the movies or go to the pub. I could give a shit, but I don't live that sort of lifestyle. I don't have to go to the movies. I don't have to go to the pub. God, I've got 3 bottles of scotch sitting down here beside me, and if I wanted a drink, I could have one right there. They're all unopened. So, I'm wondering, are we going to modify our lifestyle so that we all become hermit-like, in which case we won't impact their digital ID'd society very much, and they'll go on doing what they do. They'll have the control over the masses, and we'll just be a small little group that has to be dealt with now and again, and the rest of society will look at us and go, oh, you poor things, you poor things. Then they'll switch on the 5G and they'll look at us through different eyes, hungry eyes, maybe. Oh, speaking of hungry, I'll get off this subject now, but I'm starting to get a bit annoyed with news that's being put out. Now, I'm pretty confident that a lot of the right-wingers have got a hold of the left-wing conspiracies and decided to give them to AI to start building all sorts of little animations and whatnot for us to view on our favorite social media channels. It's shitty the way that they're doing this. Going forward, oh God, I've just forgotten where I was going with that. I apologize. Hang on, let me skip back. Where was I? We got off digital ID. Oh, yes, Macca's. So, big story out I saw over the weekend. Read it in 2 or 3 different places. McDonald's restaurants worldwide are closing because human remains have been found in their meat. I saw this posted up today somewhere. I've seen it 3 or 4 times over the weekend. I would ask, as I did in that post, if anybody has come across a closed McDonald's, will you let me know? If you happen to be in a town that has a few of them, Would you drive past and see if they're all closed? It's probably a waste of fuel, I'd suggest. McDonald's closing in Australia would be big news. Big news. But people still seem to want to believe this shit that's being put out. And there's been something else that's come out in the last few days, which I hesitate to bring up because there are people watching this show who aren't very well. There are people watching this show who have significant issues, ranging from cancer to mental health issues to other physical problems. We've all got our own problems, and we've all been wishing for the medbed technology to come and be made available. I've had a couple of excited phone calls and emails from people who have said Sky Prince has come out and said, you know, it's all real, it's all real. Donald Trump put up a fake AI medbed tweet on his Truth Social and then took it down. And yes, he did do all of that. Are medbeds here? Sky's saying they're here, they're real, they're all happening. Look, yes, I believe that there are medbeds in the country. Is anybody actually getting into them at the moment? I don't know. Maybe terminally ill people are being given the opportunity. Maybe they're going to have to practice on somebody, aren't they? So yes, there might be terminally ill people who've been taken out of the hospitals and wards that they've been in and are moved to a different facility to try something new. I don't know. What I can tell you is that there is no foundational evidence to prove that medbeds are in this country or any other at this point. Now, there's a lot of talk about them. And there has been a lot of talk about them for 4 years. Now, if this technology is available, if the white hats were so concerned about people dying from the effects of the jab, why is this technology being held back from us? Why isn't it being used to not just fix unhealthy people, but to demonstrate the levels of technology that have been hidden from us for years by these people who've claimed to be doing the best by us all, like Albo Sleazy is doing at the moment in the UK. Oh, I'm doing the best by Australians. Oh, going over there shaking the hands of Keir Starmer. So yeah, look, I want nothing more for medbeds to be available, particularly to a number of people who are in this chat tonight, and one in particular. But I can't come and tell you hopium. I can't come and say, oh, yes, they're real. I had poor old Harm rang me earlier tonight. It was about the third person to talk to me about this. Oh, look, you know, have a look at the video. And I had a look at the video. But I get angry. I get angry when I hear her talk about these things because there is no address that I can visit to see it. There is no other back channel that says, yeah, look, Carl, we do have them. There is no nothing. I'm not saying we don't have them. I'm just saying to come out and say, yeah, we've got them. Yay. Well, if we've got them, start friggin' using them. Start letting the people who desperately need them to get access to them. If they're here, let's use them. Let's not just, you know, wake up and say, oh, look, they're here. You tell me an address and I will be there. You tell me an address where they are, I will be there tomorrow. I will film the ass out of them. I will show you that they're real. But the timing isn't right, apparently. More people have to die. Well, more people are going to die. Not just from the jab. They're going to die from the stress of this digital ID bullshit. They're going to die from starvation. They're going to die from, well, the things that the government will do once they have complete and utter control. And that is what they will gain over all of us if we allow them to get digital ID off the ground here in this country, or any other for that matter. This isn't just an Australia thing. This is a global thing. Do you think a digital ID is only just for Australia? It won't be. It won't be. When the digital ID is fully realised, you won't need a passport. You'll be a citizen of the earth. And if you are allowed to travel anywhere, it will only be because you have been a good citizen of the earth. And then you will only be allowed to travel in certain ways, at certain times, and to certain places. Because the evil bastards who are running this world will be mining the arse out of every inch of it that was protected hitherto. We've got to stop it, folks. And turning up to a protest once a month isn't going to do that. I'm sorry. Having said that, very happy to support Beck's March for Australia protest again on the 19th of October. I'll have Beck on the show maybe later this week. We'll talk about it. But I think that digital ID needs to be added to the topics of conversation for the speakers at that rally. The March for Australia rally that happened previously was the most successful march of any of them in recent memory. They had more people turning up in more capital cities than the folks who decided to go against them were able to manage 2 weeks later. Now, the only thing that changed there was the messaging. Now, a lot of people came out and criticised Beck Freedom for letting people get up and talk on an open mic. And some people might have said things you didn't like to hear. Nobody said you had to stay there and hear them. Get over yourselves, folks. There is always going to be people who say things you don't like. I might be one of them. So if you don't like it, I don't care. It shouldn't mean we can't be friends. It just means I have a different idea to you on what can happen. And the difference, I think, between many of us and many of them is that we can talk about our differences. We can debate them. And if you make good points, then the argument progresses. It becomes stronger. The message gets spread wider and stronger. So we need to start thinking about how we're going to communicate. We need to lift our vibration, which is something of a struggle at times. I know. God, do I know. But it is only by lifting our vibration, aspiring to be the better beings that we know we are meant to be, and to break the chains of programming that we've been wrapped in since our birth, and our parents, and our grandparents, and our great-grandparents. We're all wrapped in the same thing. We're lucky to be alive this time, at this time particularly. And we've come back here for a reason. We have come back here to take back what is God's. Until people come to that realization, that understanding, you won't take that next step. We keep saying this is a spiritual war, and yet we ignore the spiritual side. So many ignore the spiritual side. Now, that doesn't mean you've got to become a Bible basher. That doesn't mean you've got to pick up the good book and memorize it cover to cover. No, it doesn't. It just means you live your life a certain way. And that's not a pious monk type lifestyle. God gave you the direction on how to live your life. 10 really easy things to follow. You know, and I can't name all 10 and I'm embarrassed for it. But I can tell you a few of the good ones. Don't kill. Don't go and murder someone. That's going to take a huge chunk of your soul, right? That you will never, ever get back. So don't murder anyone. Don't covet thy neighbor or thy neighbor's wife. That means don't go putting your dick in something you shouldn't. Don't go coveting what your neighbor has. You know, if they're richer than you and you covet, don't just work for you. Be happy. Work towards what you want in your life. Here endeth that lesson. But it is through that book that we are going to learn how to level up. And it is through that book that we learn of the war, the spiritual war that we are in, and what is required to fight it. So if you like a fight and don't really care for religion, I commend the Bible to you, because it is a war manual. It just depends on how you read it. I urge you to give it a look, because we are going to need both it and Jesus Christ Almighty to get through what's coming. That digital ID, they will try and ram it through, folks. And they may well be very successful in ramming it through. If they are, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to comply? Well, I hear a resounding no, I'm not going to comply. So what are you going to do? Turn your head to that question. Because I'm pretty confident they're going to come after us for not complying this time. COVID was a bit different, but this one, they need to have us in this. Because we are the fighters. We are the rebels, the renegades, those that will push back. Those that say, I will not comply. I do not believe you. I do not trust your science, because for the last 20 years, all I've seen out of the science and the politicians is lies and corruption and deceit. I have zero respect for government. I have zero respect for what should be the greatest scientific minds in this country, because the greatest scientific minds in this country have been bribed to tell you lies, to propagate the climate change scam. It has to stop, folks. Sitting here counting bloody tracks in the sky every day isn't going to fix the fucking tracks in the sky, is it? So we can all sit here and point up and say, they're striping us again today. They're doing it again today. And then we feel all happy in ourselves because tomorrow when it rains and we wake up and, we knew that was going to happen. Makes us feel good because we can predict these things. We're almost like seers into the future. Well, get over yourself. You're missing so much else. How do we stop that shit from being sprayed? How do we stop it? Not talk about it. How do we stop it? And you can't go and talk to the pilots because they don't know it's happening. It's a fuel additive, right? It's something that they throw into the fuel inside a plane and it burns up inside the engine, comes out. That's how it works in many cases. In other cases, they dump shit out, but they're military aircraft that dump for the most part. The big aircraft anyway, Hercules they usually use. Not so much here in Australia, but there is an international company with a fleet of aircraft that flies around the world doing this. And they can take advantage of any of our air bases to land and refuel anytime they like. They can also take advantage of any of our major airports. And you wouldn't know the aircraft if it pulled up beside you. You'd think it looked a little weird because it may not have too many windows, or the windows that it does have been blacked out or whited out. They're the ones you want to be looking for because they're in this country every day. Every day. There was a period last year, I believe, for 11 months where they did not land in Australia, and they may not be landing back in Australia yet, because there was a concerted bunch of people trying to get as much information about those aircraft as possible, and they were tracking them around the world. The folks who invented the P1000 camera are not loved by these organizations, because those cameras are good enough, if you've got them on a decent tripod, to zoom in on an aircraft at 40,000 feet and take a very, very detailed photo identifying it. And then you can track where those planes are going, coming from, going to. And there are a lot of people very motivated to find out the truth about all this, folks. And some of them work in good areas to find out that information. Michelle, a RAF plane was spreading down your way. You're in, Michelle, you're in Gippsland, so there's a RAF base down there at Sale. It's a training base for the most part. The roulettes work out of there. And, well, spraying in your part of the world would not necessarily be off the books, depending on which way the wind was blowing. There's been another release of images today up Hervey Bay way, where in the last day or so an aircraft has been stitching between Hervey Bay and Bundaberg, basically. People were inquiring, made inquiries of council, made inquiries of the airports, rang CASA, all sorts of things, and were told a bunch of lies. They were told, oh, that's just a commercial aircraft, or it's a private aircraft on its way doing training flights between Hervey Bay and Bundaberg. But when you look at the track this thing was flying, there was no training flight. It didn't land. It didn't do any stop and goes, or touch and goes rather. It was working at a steady altitude the entire time. What was it doing? And nobody is giving any answers. Nobody is telling the truth. It is true that a lot of work is done by aircraft surveying roads, road conditions, and all that sort of stuff. Now, this was explained to me as a very reasonable reason to have these aircraft flying around, leaving the patterns that they are when you put them into Flight Tracker and see what they're doing. I call bullshit on that, because these aircraft are flying at a constant level and turning around, stitching up and down the whole time, up and down along the coast. So, yeah, I call bullshit. But we've got to go and try and find out what they are doing. And how do we do that, folks? We need your eyes. Your eyes. There are people all over the country who track these aircraft, and I haven't spoken about it with Vince, but and I don't even know that we could do it, but there might also be people out there who are already doing it. We need one central area where these reports of these aircraft can come in. And then we need people on the ground in those areas where these aircraft, particularly the smaller ones, not the big jets, but these little caravans, Cessna caravans and the like, they fly all over Australia doing this. And we need people all over Australia with good cameras, maybe a lens, or the ability to have a conversation with somebody, a complete stranger, maybe a pilot once you see him get out of the aircraft. There's a few bits and pieces like that we are going to need to start organising in a much more formal way, so that we, the uncompliant, can stay informed and give ourselves at least half a chance. Starfall, yep. National ID bill was enshrined into law in last December. Yep, they certainly did try doing that. And it will be mandated by December 2026 using public-private partnerships as opposed to approach in the UK. Yes, public-private partnerships, the government wanting to involve business in all this. So that means if you're a business owner, the government are going to coerce you into complying. That's what that means. Just like they did with COVID. They put the onus on the business. So if you own that business, folks, what are you going to do? You're going to comply? Oh, but I've worked my whole life for my business. Well, yeah. And they're going to come and take it off you one way or the other with this compliance. So are you going to go out with a whimper? Or are we going to make them regret ever considering this idea? I know in Melbourne there are a lot of people very motivated to help governments of Australia reconsider this idea, and a few others. It won't take much to have a veritable army join those people. And it's not going to be too much longer, I think, before calls for that start happening. The people are going, we've been left to be compliant. We get told, yeah, go and protest, but then the police turn up and shoot at you, or they spray you with bear spray, or your protest is ineffectual because 16 other protesters with 42 different messages all want to turn up at the same time and shout over each other, because all the people organising all the protests are a pathetic bunch of wankers who can't see the single strongest point that we all have to band together with. Never forget, this is a spiritual war. If you don't understand what that means yet, please get a Bible and start reading. Doesn't matter what page, pick it up, just start reading. Life is going to get very desperate for us all sooner rather than later. If you want to protect yourself from what will be the cash squeeze, get into silver, get into gold. They can't take that off you if they don't know you don't. You've got it. Right? You know, these little Byron Bobs, $10 each at the moment. By the time you get them, they could be worth 20. That's a level of tradability that the government will take off you when they refuse to let you get your $5, $10, $20, $50 or $100 notes anymore because you refuse to comply. And there will be other ways around that too. Some thought has been given. None of it's going to be telegraphed until it's absolutely required. Inheritance tax, unrealised capital gains, all these, the taxes that are being thrown on, well, the global population really, but the Australian population in particular. We are the most highly taxed nation in the world. In the world. And what do we do about it? We complain. We have a little march. We go to the pub and have a few beers. Then we go home again. What we need to do, folks, is get a lot more dickheads on the road. A lot more dickheads on the road. And then we stop them on the road. And we stop this country dead. When the government complies, the country starts again. So, for the first time in the entire history of the Voice of Freedom, tonight, I'm encouraging the dickheads to get on the road.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!